Hi everyone, my name's Olivia Omega. I am a branding strategist, inclusion and diversity advocate, speaker, and entrepreneurial believer. Welcome to Kickin' It with KeeKee. I'm so excited for you to be here, and I just wanted to let you know about my new podcast. It's called God is CEO, and it basically takes entrepreneurs on a journey of placing God in the driver's seat of our business and our lives. Visit me at oliviaomega.com, check out the podcast, and enjoy the show.
Okay, y'all, this is KeeKee. Welcome to Kickin' It with KeeKee, and I am so excited about my guest today. She is my sister friend, my business. I don't know. She is like my business everything. When I think of a business idea, I think of her first. When I think about branding, I think about Olivia. When I think about marketing, I'm thinking about Olivia. So I want you to meet my biz girlfriend, Olivia Omega Wallace. Come on in, Olivia. Hey!
I'm here.
Yes,
Kicking it with KeeKee.
Kicking it with KeeKee. We're in the building. Oh my God. Okay, so Olivia was actually around when Kicking It with KeeKee was born. This is, do you remember that?
I do. I remember. How fun.
Right. This is so much fun. It's like, okay, let's do this. So Olivia, we're kicking it, but we're talking to entrepreneurs. Okay. We're talking to like our zone of people, and I want to give them some juice and some jewels because you've been so good to me and such a, I don't even know how to explain it. You're like a volcano of resources. It's like,
thank you.
Lava all over, and it just feels all warm and fuzzy.
Lava.
Mm-hmm. I lava y'all. So, okay, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Because, you right now in our country, a lot of people are having to pivot and do different things as far as like business is concerned. Now, you and I have been friends, I don't know, are we going on at least 20 years now?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right. It's been a while. Okay, we stopped counting. We just know that we love each other and we're just in each other's lives, and she can't quit me, I can't quit her, basically. Mm-hmm. So, but what's happened is I've watched Olivia, and she's watched me, but I've watched Olivia over the years do some pivots and some awesome pivots in business. So Olivia, I want to talk to you about, you've started multiple businesses over the years, and I want the viewers to hear what it actually looks like and feels like in the background of a business when you're thinking, okay, I'm not going to do this particular thing anymore. Now I'm going to do that. And I'm going to let you tell them what the this and the that was.
Oh.
Right.
Okay. There's been a lot of this and that.
I know.
I started my first business at 13, and I learned how to sew when I was 6. And so I was doing all the Barbie clothes and creating stuffed animals, creating clothes for stuffed animals. So in my mind, that's kind of like my first business. And I was making a little bit of money. It was good $13 money from, if you think about 30 some years ago, whatever. And then, went to college, graduated, and worked for an ad agency. And after a while, I look at my businesses as phases in life, right? So I got married, I had kids. So I have these babies now. And then with babies, I still have this creative mind, and I'm still sewing and doing these things. And I was making baby t-shirts for friends who were also pregnant and turned it into a business. I quit my job because my son was sick, and I had run out of sick leave and ran out of vacation time, and he was in and out of the hospital. So I had to leave my job. Okay, well, so now I'm going to pivot, right? Because I worked for corporate and start this company, and life stages change and shift, right? My babies were no longer babies anymore. They were getting older. I got a divorce. I had to start over. I couldn't rely on this baby business that was bringing in income, but it wasn't bringing in solo parents, start over, get a house, find a car, get, income. So I had to go back to that job that I quit and figure it out. And then after so long, that job was no longer for me. I wasn't getting promoted. I was miserable. I was hurt. And so I quit again. But this time, instead of going back to baby clothes, because my kids weren't babies anymore, you know, they were, gosh, I don't even know. I start making up numbers because I can't remember anything. They were like, I don't know, 10 and 8, 10 and 7, I don't know. So I actually took what I had learned at the agency and started doing branding consulting. So that was the start of branding consulting. And I did a lot of that with the baby company too, because there were lots of moms who were like me, starting businesses either on the side or, you know, stay-at-home moms starting businesses. And so I was consulting them on how to build their brand, their business, how to do PR and things like that. So I think of pivoting in the sense of life stages. And what I had to learn, and this is key, and I have to remind myself this all the time because I took another pivot about a year or so ago, is that pivots, the mindset isn't that I quit this business.
Tell it.
Not quitting. Or this business didn't work. The baby business, I probably would have stayed a little bit longer, but I was depressed. I was on antidepressants. My marriage crumbled. I lost my house, my car. Like it was a pretty rock bottom place. Right. I can't be making baby t-shirts. Like I couldn't fill orders. I couldn't feed my kids. Like there was a lot I had to go through. And so in my mind, it didn't work. It failed. I couldn't keep it together. That was the same thought with my marriage. I couldn't make this work. Wow. I couldn't keep it together. And so therefore I had to let it go. Whereas now, and that was over 10 years ago, now when I look at a pivot, I think of it as a graduation. Ooh. So I have graduated from this period in my life, from this time. I don't have babies anymore, so the baby business doesn't make sense. Right. I'm not trying to rebuild my entire life and need the stability of a paycheck. So the advertising agency didn't make sense. I, shifted from working with, I used to work with Etsy makers, which was wonderful and great. But after a while, how many diaper bags do you have to sell to be able to afford my branding services? That became a little bit tricky. Right. So I pivoted from that, but I wrote a book so that I could help serve them. So in my mind, it's like, I've graduated from this phase in life and this phase in business to this other level. And my son is like, he was obsessed with video games. I think, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord, that obsession has slowly moved away. But at one point in time, that's all he could do was video games. And so thinking about the levels, when you beat level 3, you had to take all the skills and the guns and the grenade and whatever you collected on level 3 to get up to 4 and beat level 4. And so same thing with these pivots. My businesses didn't fail. I didn't quit. I graduated to this new level. So that's what I keep telling myself in my mind. So for those of you in this crazy time that are having to shift and pivot, don't resist it because you'll get stuck behind. We'll end up in a world that is changing rapidly and you'll be stuck in the same business model, the same focus, and you wouldn't have evolved and graduated to that next level. So don't fight the pivot, welcome it, and think of it as this like exciting new challenge.
Ooh, I like that. Thank you. That is that I've never heard it said like that. However, it makes so much sense to hear you explain it. A pivot is a graduation. So you pretty much graduated one level. Now you have to ascend to the next. And what do? You take your skills. You don't lose any skills. No, you just improve. Oh, wow.
Improve. Yeah.
Okay. So now, what is one thing that you wished you'd known before you started? I don't even know where to start, right? But one thing that you wish you'd known, like what if someone was to say, okay, I'm getting ready to start a business, what's the first thing you're going to tell them?
So there is a difference between what you know to do and what you do. So when I think back and when I started the baby company and every pivot I've had, right, every business and shift in life, I know this information. I knew to do this, but I didn't do it. And that is to find someone who is doing what you've done or who has done what you're doing and learn from that person. That sounds so it's like, duh, like, of course, like you would never run a marathon if you didn't train and talk to somebody who's run a marathon, right? But a lot of us try to run marathons. I've never tried to run a marathon, but I did run a 5K with no training. I didn't talk to nobody. I just threw on some shoes and thought I could do something.
No couch to 5K training, nothing.
No couch to 5K, nothing. I'm ridiculous, and I almost, you know, I almost had some serious issues because of it.
Right.
But the same thing with the business. We start something,
Yeah.
and we might do our little research, and we may be, you know, but we try to go it alone, and we try to do it alone. And there's such thing called dummy tax. I have paid so much dummy tax, and that's basically when you try to do something you don't know what you're doing,
Yep.
which, you know, is okay, but you're going to pay the tax. You're going to end up having to pay someone to fix the stuff you know didn't know. You're going to take a long way instead of going straight to the end result. Like, dummy tax is money, time, resources, energy, all of those things. And so I've paid a lot of dummy tax over the years. And the first major tax was when I created a website for my baby company. This is 2007. So WordPress had just launched, and I didn't even know about it. There was no Wix, there was no Squarespace, there was nothing. And so I had to pay $3,000 for someone, and this is 2007 money, $3,000 to have someone build a website. But because I didn't know what I needed, I wasn't able to tell them what I needed. So they built this site that didn't have a shopping cart.
That's kind of important.
Shopping cart. So things like that. But if I had found someone or reached out, and this is kind of that second part of that, is not be ashamed to reach out.
Yeah.
And ask the questions. I would have known that I needed a shopping cart. I would have known what it was. I would have known that I needed a checkout, because that's different than it. Like, all of these things, so that I wouldn't have wasted time and energy and money. So that's what I would recommend, is find someone who's doing this. Ask all the questions, and don't be afraid to ask silly questions.
Right. Okay. Now, you do mostly marketing now, right? More. Okay. So explain this to me, because sometimes, you know, I'm like a kindergartner when it comes to marketing and branding. I know they're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us why not.
All right. So branding is how you present yourself, your business, your product, in strategy, language, which is huge. I feel like branding, the words you use to describe what you do is probably the biggest, most important piece of branding.
Yes.
And then how you look. So that's, you know, where we all go in our head, the colors, the logos, and things like that. So that is branding, is how do you present yourself?
Right.
What does that look like? What does it sound like? You know, what is that? What is that brand strategy? Marketing is then taking that brand and getting it in front of people. So two totally different things. I can have, and I've learned this in the past, the most amazing brand. It's packaged right, it looks good, it sounds good, the right words, I'm speaking to the right target audience, all of these things,
right,
and all beautiful and, you know, together, beautifully branded on the website. And if no one goes to that website and no one sees or hears about that brand, then I haven't done any marketing.
Oh, so I call that, it's like you've you planned the party, but you forgot to send out the invitation.
Exactly. So basically the party doesn't really exist if no one came. You know what I mean? Or
I hear that the party don't exist.
It didn't exist if no one came. Like, how do I know you really had that party if no one showed up, right? The other analogy that we use a lot of times is that the brand and that business strategy and the business model is like building a car. If you built this amazing $300,000 Ferrari, it's expensive, it's beautiful, it's perfect, but you don't have any gas in that car, the car's not going anywhere. So that gas is that traffic, it's the marketing, it's getting eyeballs to see this beautiful thing that you've built.
Oh, so what tips do you give when it comes to, you know, someone doesn't really know, like they have the brand together, but now they are clueless as to like the first maybe 2 to 3 steps to take to start marketing yourself to make an impact in with your audience?
So the two things I would say for marketing is a hustle. Like that is, it is work and it is grind. And when you think about like, you know, the people, you've got the Damon Johns and all, like just these different like names of people that were like sleeping on buses and passing out flyers, like that hustle that we lose because we're in this internet phase and we just think, you know, we're going to hit send and it'll be great.
Right.
So marketing is a hustle, and it's a lot of people will peter out during that branding process. So the branding happens and now they're like, oh gosh, that took a long time. That was a lot of effort. That was a lot of money. And they get tired and then they stop and they don't do the marketing. So that marketing is that next oomph and like second wind of hustle that you need to have. And you need to have resources to put into that. So those resources are either going to be money or time or energy. Like it's got to be all. If you have no money, then you're going to work your butt off to get your name out and to be creative in those ways. Or you're going to spend money to do that. Like you have to invest in advertising. Like that's just the world we're in a very smart way. That's a whole other podcast interview. Right. But if you're saying I don't have time and I don't have energy and I don't have money, then you're I don't know what to tell you. You're kind of out of luck. The last thing on marketing is that marketing, the definition of marketing is actually building relationships to communicate your brand, right?
Yes.
It is not selling. Marketing isn't sales. So a lot of times we'll go out and we'll just say, hey, my name's Olivia, and KeeKee, you're the best at this, at calling people out and being like, you can't approach me like that. What are you talking about? My name's Olivia, buy my book. My name's Olivia, hire me for this. I have a coaching program. It's only $2,000 and you know, whatever. Wait a minute. Who are you? Yeah. Your name's Olivia, but who are you? I have no relationship with you.
Right.
None. I don't know you. I don't like you. I don't trust you. I barely know your name. Right. So think about marketing. It's all about relationship building first. And once we've got that connection, I could ask you to buy, you know, my lip gloss or, you know, whatever I have, and you will consider that and you'll be more likely to buy it because we've built some sort of rapport.
You know, Olivia, I don't understand, or maybe I do. Because of the, like you hit on it, because we're in a world where, you know, you can just click a button and hit send and all of a sudden it feels like you've created a relationship with someone or someone likes a status and there's a relationship. However, we know that that is not the way to build a business. I think that they are like in the marketplace, people are forgetting that know, like, trust factor as if it doesn't exist. And I blame the fact that people say that, you know, I can make money while I sleep. However, you know, to make money while you sleep, you got to make money while you're woke.
Right.
And you need to do things to make money come in while you sleep. Like, okay, I've made money while I slept, but that's because I put some work in before the money came in. And I built those relationships. And yes, you're right. I have become known for calling out that madness on social media because I need people to know.
Yeah, they need to know. No one's people are teaching the wrong thing. Yeah. And if no one's correcting people to say, oh, baby girl, you can't do that. You're not going to have success. Then they won't know and they'll just keep doing it. And then this is what breaks my heart is entrepreneurs who are broke and tired and literally in tears because of the efforts that they're doing aren't coming back and they're not bearing fruit.
Right.
If us elder people aren't educating, then, you know, we can't stop the madness and we can't help people get results. So.
Right. It's like, I understand the need to get results. I also understand because you're an entrepreneur, you need to make money. Like no one is an entrepreneur because they just want to give, even though you hear a lot of entrepreneurs, and I was guilty of this myself. It's not about the money. It's not about the money. It is absolutely about the money. Once you can't pay your bills and this is your only source of income, the money needs to come in. So there becomes a thought of money. However, I think that what happens is because they haven't thought about the money, all of a sudden there becomes a like almost a desperation to bring money in fast.
That's it. We become desperate. Then we start posting craziness. Like I call them panic posts where you're just like, you know, 50% off my coaching, you know, ends tomorrow. Like sign up now. It's like, wait a minute,
I didn't know you did coaching.
I didn't know you did coaching. And what is your coaching on? Like who is it for? And so we end up doing these panic posts and these things out of desperation because we are broke. And now with the financial situation, with, you know, everything happening in the world right now, I think we're starting to become even more panicked,
right?
And potentially even more desperate. So now it's like the thought and the strategy around branding and marketing is starting to go out the window, and we have to breathe. This might go to your last question, but we have to breathe and really pause and evaluate, and not feel like we just have to like do and respond and react so quickly.
Right. You know, one thing I think about is, and I think I may not have this, I'm going to just tell anyone, if you've heard this somewhere else, I know that this may not be an original thought. It may have seeped into my subconscious. However, you think about the fact that, imagine if Black Panther would have just come out it was coming out this Friday, today, and we had just heard about it on Wednesday.
Right.
You know? So I think that what business owners forget is that there has to be marketing before the thing hits the market.
Yeah. It's called a pre-launch. You know, that's what that is this pre-launch of sowing I can go, we're like gardeners now all of a sudden. Like that's what quarantine has done to us, is created us. We have like 100 and some plants, girl. I don't know what happened, but in this analogies of like tilling the soil, like making sure that the soil is prepared, like planting the seeds, you won't see a harvest. And so that's all that pre-launch, the preparing, the teasing, the building relationships, all of those things to cultivate. So then when you get to this place where it's now ready, the pre-sales, right? Now when it's ready, you've got all of these people chomping at the bit to get to the theater, and you know,
like they're ready. They're ready because
they've been ready. They're a little annoyed, actually. They're a little annoyed that they've been waiting so long for this thing, but that builds even more of this excitement.
I think so too. Let me see. Okay, so I don't want we have a little bit more time here, so I might just be going in. Okay, so the other day I had a guest that talked about marriage and entrepreneurship. Now, one thing I know that's unique for you is that you and your husband are entrepreneurs. I think that is like the coolest thing, because what we know is that most women, when they're in entrepreneurship and their husband is not, it's a totally different dynamic. Like for me, I can say when I first went into the full-time entrepreneurship, for Cedric, it was like, when is the money? You know, men work and
timelines,
and we work and we work and we work. And then eventually we get paid. We can have a $20,000 day, and then for 6 months you may not get any more money.
Right.
So talk about how is it when you and your husband are both entrepreneurs?
It's amazing. It's exhilarating. It's beautiful. And just as beautiful and exhilarating it is, there's that flip side of it, of scary and daunting and hard and stressful, because we're both relying on inconsistent paychecks and inconsistent dollar amounts. So there isn't like one spouse who has, you know, at least that's steady. And then, you know, so because we're both in that situation, it makes things tight and hard sometimes. But because we're both in that situation, we get each other and we can geek out constantly on this notion of entrepreneurship. We're both in marketing and branding. So it's a beautiful way of connecting. And this sounds really weird and geeky as it's about to come out of my mouth, but there's this like notion of intimacy too, when you can build something together, a product, a business, a brand, whatever, and launch it together. And so then when that is successful and you see the money coming in from something you built together, like having a baby, right? It kind of puts you over the moon.
Right.
But again, that same high, there's an equal low, and it's just making sure that you, as an entrepreneur, whether your spouse is an entrepreneur or not, you ride those highs and lows and try to keep things on a little bit of a medium versus feeling and reacting to every dip and increase. Like that can be exhausting.
Right. So do you guys are you always on, or do you know when to turn it off?
So
She's always on, y'all. I think she's always on.
we're always on. Now, I will say, so I mentioned earlier the pivot that I took, recently in the last year, where I'm working on, I actually had a client that my husband had nothing to do with, so he wasn't touching that business. So it was actually nice for us to separate a little bit, still both being entrepreneurs, but I had something I was doing that he wasn't a part of, and then vice versa. He had something to do that I wasn't a part of, and that actually allowed us to be off more. So I would say in the last year, because we have a little bit more distance there, been able to turn off more than we ever have.
Oh, wow.
And we're able to be in each other's presence and not talk business.
Oh, wow.
Whereas before, that's all we talked about. That's all we talked about. And sometimes it was good, and sometimes it was, whatever, and sometimes it was stressful. But we couldn't go on date night without sitting there and talking about work and clients and
Wow.
getting more clients. And so I think, honestly, because we teased it apart a little bit, our marriage is better for it now.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. Okay, so we're getting ready our time is getting ready to come to a close. However, like I said in the beginning, you can't quit me, I can't quit you. So what I want you to tell our viewers is, if you had one lesson that you can share with a woman who was getting ready to come into business, what would you tell her?
I would tell her, and I would say this anytime, but even more so now, in the times that we're in, to really sit still with yourself. And that can be hard. And sometimes when we sit still with ourselves, and that looks different for everybody, that could be in meditation and prayer. It could just be in silence. It could be just taking some more time and not jumping the gun on something. A lot of times we will realize and start to understand things about ourselves that we don't necessarily like or love, or that we're surprised about. And so taking that time, you may realize, I'm about to go into business for this, but my heart is not even in that.
Ooh.
And that hurts. It's hard, especially in your mind. You're like, I planned this out. I bought the domain. I'm like, I'm doing these things. But if you take the time to sit still, really understand where your heart is, because entrepreneurship is one of the hardest things. I always say, raising children, raising toddlers and teenagers,
Right.
raising or being married, and running a business. Those are the three hardest things I've ever done in my life. It's so hard and it's amazing. Yeah. But if your heart isn't in it, and if it isn't fueled by some sort of passion, or you're not being true to who you are, that energy is going to run out, and it'll be a miserable, long road. So my advice would be just to pause and sit still and truly take a good hard look at who you are, who you want to be, your life, the phase of life you're in, and really what your heart is saying and what is driving your passion before you jump into the deep end.
Right. And I want to just add on the end of what she said is that you really want to be connected to why you're doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
I know we talked, it can't be all about the money, but don't forget about the money. There has to be something deeper than why. Like Olivia talked about, she started this because she had children that she needed to take care of, and working a job just wasn't going to work for her. So what connects you to actually building this business and sticking with it?
Right.
Olivia, I want to thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
We're kicking it with KeeKee. This has been so much fun. I'm just like, oh my goodness. I love you so much. I thank you. I hope that I know that we're going to do this again. I can't wait to have you on again. We'll talk about something. I don't know. We got 1,000 things to talk about, you and me.
Yes.
So I want to thank you for joining me, and y'all stay tuned to Kicking It with KeeKee. We got some good shows coming up. I'll see you soon.